this time I did come right back. I told you guys. I apologize that I was going to be back yesterday for Holy Corner, and I did not make it. The night completely got away from me, and I do apologize. So let's make up for tonight by getting right into it and starting with our lovely candles that make it so incredibly nice and cozy. Let's see if I can get them all lit with one match tonight. I struggled with that last night. I'm used to those old matches that just didn't light quick. They kind of burn slower, which, well, maybe that's not true. That's what it seemed like. And let's get our dragonfly lit too. Lovely little votive. It's lovely tingly tail. Pretty green gems. Nice little tingly votive. Okay. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Turn out our lights. Have you guys turned out your lights yet? Got your cozy blankets, pillows, shadows, plants on the wall. It's always so relaxing to me. I love that. I like a good routine. It is such a good way to signal to yourself that it is time to wind down for the day, which can be very difficult for me sometimes. I think there are certain days that I get maybe a little too much downtime on my days off work, which I know sounds impossible, but I feel like impossibly guilty if I am not always doing something. My brain tends to not shut off very easily. All I can think about right now is that I have to go downstairs after this and switch the laundry out because we need towels, and just ran a big load of towels. One last sip of gin. And stuff like that. So even though I do have to do a couple more things after this, it is pretty much time to signal to myself that it is time to relax. And I really, really hope that this does that for you guys too. It is my goal. I think I told you guys this once. My son, when he was much younger, every time I went to read to him, he would accuse me of saying, "You want me to go to sleep? You want me to go to sleep?" Even if it was just, reading, helping him with something for school when he was younger, or just reading a cool book just to relax, which we did a lot. Once he started to be able to talk, he's like, "No, Mommy, this is how you trick me to sleep." I'm like, "No, I don't mean to." So hopefully it does the same for you guys. I hope you had a wonderful Wednesday, a productive one, but I hope you're ready to relax with me now. So here we go, back to Through the Looking Glass, which I fear is getting very close to the end. We have to pick a new story. Help me out, guys. Help me out. What would you like to hear? Okay. So this is the plum cake with the lion and the unicorn who just had, oh, pardon me, a fight. Let's see. And they kept calling Alice a monster. That's right, because the lion and the unicorn had no idea what she was. Not used to humans, obviously, where they are in the looking glass, behind the looking glass. And so let's start with the last paragraph. Again, the way I like to do. So they've asked her if she wanted a piece of plum cake because the looking glass way to divide a cake. See, you don't know how to manage looking glass cake. She kept trying to cut it. It wouldn't cut, but you need to hand it round first and cut it afterwards. Somehow it divided itself up into 3 pieces, and they were kind of arbitrating over who would get what and how much of it. Did the monster, Alice, want some plum cake? But before she could answer him, the drums began. Where the noise came from, she couldn't make out. The air seemed full of it, and it rang through and through her head till she felt quite deafened. She started to her feet and sprang across the little brook in her terror, and had just come to see the lion and the unicorn rise to their feet with angry looks at being interrupted in their feast, before she dropped to her knees and put her hands over her ears, vainly trying to shut out the dreadful uproar. If that doesn't drum them out of town, she thought to herself, nothing ever will. This chapter is It's My Own Invention, and we'll go a few pages into this. We may make it to the end of the chapter, we may not, but we shall see, we shall see. Well, at least get a few pages in tonight, my stars. It's my own invention. After a while, the noise seemed to gradually die away, till all was dead silence, and Alice lifted up her head in some alarm. There was no one to be seen, and her first thought was that she must have been dreaming about the lion, the unicorn, and those queer Anglo-Saxon messengers. However, there was the great dish still lying at her feet, on which she had tried to cut the plum cake. So, I wasn't dreaming after all, she said to herself. Unless we're all part of the same dream. Only I do hope it's my dream and not the Red King's. I don't like belonging to another person's dream. She went on in a rather complaining tone. I've a great mind to go and wake him and see what happens. At this moment, her thoughts were interrupted by a loud shouting of ahoy, ahoy, check, and a knight, dressed in crimson armor, came galloping down upon her, brandishing a great club. Just as he reached her, the horse stopped suddenly. You're my prisoner, the knight cried, as he tumbled off his horse. Startled as she was, Alice was more frightened for him than for herself at the moment, and watched him with some anxiety as he mounted again. As soon as he was comfortably in the saddle, he began once more. You're my, but here another voice broke in. Ahoy, ahoy, check! And Alice looked round in some surprise for the new enemy. This time it was a white knight. He drew up at Alice's side and tumbled off his horse just as the red knight had done. Then he got on again, and the two knights sat and looked at each other for some time without speaking. It was Alice listening to the beat of 1,000 drums and the empty plate from the plum cake. Alice looked from one to the other in some bewilderment. She's my prisoner, you know, the red knight said at last. Yes, but then I came and rescued her, the white knight replied. Well, we must fight for her then. said the Red Knight, as he took up his helmet, which hung from the saddle and was something the shape of a horse's head, and put it on. You will observe the rules of battle, of course, the White Knight remarked, putting on his helmet too. I always do, said the Red Knight, and they began banging away at each other with such fury that Alice got behind a tree to be out of the way of the blows. I wonder now what the rules of battle are, she said to herself as she watched the fight, timidly peeping out from her hiding place. One rule seems to be that if one knight hits another, he knocks him off his horse, and if he misses, he tumbles off himself. And another rule seems to be that they hold their clubs with their arms, as if they were, that they hold their clubs with their arms as if they were Punch and Judy. What a noise they make when they tumble, just like a whole set of fire irons falling into the fender. And how quiet the horses are. They let them get on and off them just as if they were tables. Another rule of battle that Alice had not noticed seemed to be that they always fell on their heads, and the battle ended with their both falling off in this way side by side. When they got up again, they shook hands, and the Red Knight mounted and galloped off. It was a glorious victory, wasn't it? Said the White Knight as he came up panting. I don't know, Alice said doubtfully. I don't want to be anybody's prisoner. I want to be a queen. So you will when you've crossed the next brook, said the White Knight. I'll see you safe to the end of the wood, and then I must go back, you know. That's the end of my move. Thank you very much, said Alice. May I help you off with your helmet? It was evidently more than he could manage by himself. However, she managed to shake him out of it at last. Ah, now one can breathe more easily, said the knight, putting back his shaggy hair with both hands and turning his gentle face and large mild eyes to Alice. She thought she had never seen such a strange-looking soldier in all her life. He was dressed in tin armor, which seemed to fit him very badly, and he had a queer-shaped little deal box fastened around his shoulders, upside down, and with the lid hanging open. Alice looked at it with great curiosity. I see you're admiring my little box, the knight said in a friendly tone. It's my own invention, to keep clothes and sandwiches in. You see, I carry it upside down so that the rain can't get in. But the things can get out, Alice gently remarked. Do you know the lid's open? I didn't know it, the knight said, and a shade of vexation passing over his face. Then all the things must have fallen out, and the box is no use without them. He unfastened it as he spoke, and was just going to throw it into the bushes when a sudden thought seemed to strike him, and he hung it carefully on a tree. Can you guess why I did that? He said to Alice. Alice shook her head. In hopes some bees may nest in it, then I should get the honey. But you've got a beehive, or something like one, fastened to the saddle. Yes, it's a very good beehive, the knight said, in a discontented tone, one of the best kind. But not a single bee has come near it yet, and the other thing is a mousetrap. I suppose the mice keep the bees out, or the bees keep the mice out. I don't know which. There she is, with her White Knight, his horse full of things. I was wondering what the mousetrap was for, said Alice. It isn't very likely there would be any mice on a horse's back. Not very likely, perhaps, said the knight, but if they do come, I don't choose to have them running all about. You see, he went on after a pause, it's as well to be provided for everything. That's the reason the horse has all those anklets around his feet. But what are they for? Alice asked in a tone of great curiosity. To guard against the bites of sharks, the knight replied. It's an invention of my own, and now help me on. I'll go on with you to the end of the wood. What's that dish for? It's meant for plum cake, said Alice. We'd better take it with us, the knight said. It'll come in handy if we find any plum cake. Help me get it into this bag. This took a long time to manage, though Alice held the bag open very carefully, because the knight was so very awkward in putting in the dish. The first 2 or 3 times that he tried, he fell in himself instead. It's rather tight fit, you see, he said as they got it in at last. There were so many candlesticks in the bag. And he hung it to the saddle, which was already loaded with bunches of carrots and fire irons and many other things. I hope you've got your hair well fastened on, he continued as they set off. Only in the usual way, Alice said, smiling. That's hardly enough, he said anxiously. You see, the wind is so very strong here. It's as strong as soup. Have you invented a plan for keeping the hair from being blown off? Alice inquired. Not yet, said the knight, but I've got a plan for keeping it from falling off. I should like to hear it very much. First, you take an upright stick, said the knight. Then you make your hair creep up it, like a fruit tree. Now, the reason hair falls off is because it hangs down. Things never fall upwards, you know. It's a plan of my own invention. You may try it if you like. It didn't sound like a comfortable plan, Alice thought, and for a very few minutes she walked on in silence. And for a few minutes she walked on in silence, puzzling over the idea, and every now and then stopping to help the poor knight, who certainly was not a good rider. Whenever the horse stopped, which it did very often, he fell off in front, and whenever it went on again, which generally did rather suddenly, he fell off behind. Otherwise, he kept on pretty well, except that he had a bad habit now and then of falling off sideways. And as he generally did this on the side which Alice was walking, she soon found that it was the best plan not to walk quite close to the horse. I'm afraid you've not had much practice in riding, she ventured to say. She was helping him up from his 5th tumble. The knight looked very much surprised and a little offended at the remark. What makes you say that? He asked, as he scrambled back into the saddle, keeping hold of Alice's hair with one hand to save himself from falling over on the other side. The poor knight, falling off. Alice hoisting him back up. Because people don't fall off quite so often when they've had much practice. I've had plenty of practice, the knight said very gravely. Plenty of practice. Alice could think of nothing better to say than indeed, but she said it as heartily as she could. They went on a little way in silence after this, and the knight with his eyes shut, muttering to himself, and Alice watching anxiously for the next tumble. The great art of riding, the knight suddenly began in a loud voice, wavering his arm as he spoke, is to keep. Here the sentence ended as suddenly as it had begun, as the knight fell heavily on top of his head exactly in the path where Alice was walking. She was quite frightened this time, and said in an anxious voice as she picked him up, I hope no bones are broken. None to speak of, the knight said, as if he didn't mind breaking 2 or 3 of them. The great art of riding, as I was saying, is to keep your balance properly. Like this, you know. He let go of the bridle and stretched out both of his arms to show Alice what he meant, and this time he fell flat on his back, right under the horse's feet. Plenty of practice, he went on repeating, all the time that Alice was getting him to his feet again. Plenty of practice. It's too ridiculous, cried Alice, losing all her patience this time. You ought to have a wooden horse on wheels, that you ought. Does that kind go smoothly? The knight asked in a tone of great interest, clasping his arms round the horse's neck as he spoke, just in time to save himself from tumbling off again. Much more smoothly than a live horse, Alice said, with a little scream of laughter in spite of all she could do to prevent it. I'll get one, the knight said thoughtfully to himself. One or two, several. There was a short silence after this, and the knight went on again. I'm a great hand at inventing things. Now I dare say you noticed the last time you picked me up that I was looking rather thoughtful. You were a little grave, said Alice. Well then, just then I was inventing a new way of getting over a gate. Would you like to hear it? Very much indeed, Alice said politely. And I think that's where we'll stop tonight, I know. That is not much. A little loose for me. Oh yeah, this is a longer chapter. And then this looks like maybe the last chapter. So we'll split these last two into a couple different videos. So we're leaving off, remember, where Alice would very much like to indeed a new way of getting over a gate from the lovely knight that saved the lovely white knight that saved her from the red knight that is helping her through to become the queen on the chessboard through the looking glass. Thank you so much for bearing with me and waiting until tonight. Let me know what you thought about the coloring, the gems, any of those things, if you enjoyed that. And I hope you have a wonderful night's sleep. Sweet dreams you have. My prayers for a wonderful Thursday. My lovely friends. And the last thing we have to do is blow up the candles. So, good night, dragonfly. Good night, dragonfly. And the wonderful cozy comforts. Good night, cozy comforts. And good night to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you again on Sunday evening.